The Nexus station hung like a massive metal flower in the void between three star systems. Its spinning rings housed over 2 million beings from 47 different species, all working together in what the Galactic Council called harmonious cooperation. But Marcus Chen knew better. After 6 months of mopping floors and emptying trash bins, he had seen the ugly truth that hid behind the pretty words. Marcus pushed his cleaning cart down the curved corridor of Level 7, the residential section where most non-human species lived. His worn uniform bore the simple patch of maintenance staff in 12 different languages. To most aliens, he was invisible, just another human doing the jobs nobody else wanted. The sound reached him first, a high-pitched whimpering that made his stomach clench. Marcus had heard that sound before in the back alleys of Earth cities. It was the sound of someone being hurt by someone stronger. He rounded the corner and stopped. 5 teenage aliens surrounded a smaller figure huddled against the wall. Marcus recognized them immediately. They were Vorthak younglings, each standing nearly 7 feet tall with thick blue-gray skin and arms that could crush steel. Their leader was Krex, whose father ran one of the biggest trading companies on the station. The small figure they surrounded was barely 4 feet tall, with pale green skin and large, frightened eyes. It was a Zilani child, maybe 12 years old in human terms. The Zilani were known across the galaxy for their gentle nature and incredible intelligence. They were also known for being physically weak. "Please," the small alien whispered in broken galactic standard. "I did nothing wrong. I just wanted to study in the library." Krex laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "That's the problem, little bug. You think too much. You make the rest of us look stupid." One of the other Vorthak grabbed the child's study tablet and held it high above his head. "Look at this, brothers. Advanced quantum mathematics. The bug thinks it's better than us." "No," the Zilani boy said, reaching desperately for his tablet. "That's my homework. Please give it back." Instead of returning it, the Vorthak threw the tablet to another member of their group. They began tossing it back and forth, laughing as the small alien ran between them, trying to catch it. Marcus felt his jaw tighten. He had seen this same scene play out in schoolyards across Earth. Bullies were bullies, no matter what planet they came from. "Catch bug," Krex shouted, throwing the tablet high into the air. The device struck the ceiling and fell to the metal floor with a sharp crack. The screen went dark, and tiny pieces of broken components scattered across the ground. The Zilani boy dropped to his knees and tried to gather the pieces with his small, delicate hands. "No, no, no," he whispered. "My father saved for months to buy this. How will I explain?" "That's not our problem," Krex said. He placed his large foot on the boy's back and pushed him flat against the floor. "Maybe next time you'll think twice before showing off in class." Marcus had seen enough. He pushed his cart forward, the wheels squeaking on the metal floor. "Hey," he called out, "what's going on here?" The 5 Vorthak turned toward him. Krex rolled his eyes when he saw Marcus's human features and maintenance uniform. "Nothing that concerns you, Janitor," Krex said. "Go back to cleaning toilets." Marcus kept walking forward until he stood between the bullies and the fallen Zilani boy. "I asked what's going on. This corridor is my responsibility to keep clean and safe." "Safe," another Vorthak laughed. "You're just a human. What are you going to do about anything?" Marcus was used to this attitude. Humans were relatively new to the galactic community. Most species saw them as primitive and weak. The only reason humans were allowed on stations like Nexus was because they would work jobs that others considered beneath them. "I'm going to ask you to leave this kid alone," Marcus said calmly. "And I'm going to report this incident to station security." Krex stepped closer, using his height advantage to loom over Marcus. "You won't report anything, human. My father has contracts worth billions of credits. Your species needs those jobs more than we need your complaints." Behind him, Marcus could hear the Zilani boy whimpering as he tried to fit broken pieces of his tablet back together. "Maybe so," Marcus said, "but I'm still asking you to leave." "Or what?" Krex pushed Marcus hard in the chest. The human stumbled backward but stayed on his feet. "Or I'll make you leave." The 5 Vorthak burst into laughter. To them, the idea of a single human threatening 5 of their kind was absurd. Vorthak were known throughout the galaxy as one of the strongest species. A single adult could lift a hover car. 5 teenagers could probably tear apart a small building. "You know what, human?" Krex said. "I think you need to learn your place." He swung his massive fist toward Marcus's head, but the punch never landed. Marcus moved faster than any of the aliens expected. He ducked under the swing, grabbed Krex's extended arm, and used the alien's own momentum to send him crashing into the wall. The impact left a dent in the metal plating. Before the other four could react, Marcus was already moving. He had learned to fight in the worst neighborhoods of Earth, where being quick meant staying alive. But more than that, he had learned something during humanity's brief time in the galaxy. Most aliens had never learned to really fight. Sure, the Vorthak were strong, but they had lived in a civilized galaxy for centuries. They had laws, rules, proper ways to settle disputes. They pushed and threatened and occasionally threw clumsy punches, but they had never learned the dirty, desperate fighting that humans knew. Marcus grabbed the second Vorthak by the wrist and twisted, using leverage to bring the much larger alien to his knees. A quick elbow to the back of the head sent him sprawling. The third tried to grab Marcus from behind, but the human was already spinning away. He caught the alien off balance and sent him tumbling over Marcus's cart, spilling cleaning supplies everywhere. The fourth and fifth Vorthak hesitated, suddenly unsure. This wasn't going the way they had expected. "Come on then," Marcus said, breathing heavily. "You wanted to fight." Instead, they helped their friends up and backed away. "This isn't over, human," Krex spat, wiping blue blood from his nose. "You have no idea what you've started." "Yes, I do," Marcus replied. "I've started standing up to bullies, something that should have happened a long time ago." The five Vorthak retreated down the corridor, casting angry glances back at Marcus. Once they were gone, he knelt beside the Zilani boy. "You okay, kid?" The small alien looked up with wide, grateful eyes. You fought them for me, but they are Vorthak. They are much stronger than humans." Marcus helped the boy to his feet. Being strong and knowing how to fight are two different things. The Zilani carefully gathered the broken pieces of his tablet. "I am Zeph," he said quietly. "My father will be very angry about this." "About them breaking your tablet, that wasn't your fault." "No," Zeph shook his head. "About a human getting involved. He says humans are dangerous and unpredictable. He says I should stay away from your kind." Marcus felt a familiar sting. He had heard variations of this conversation many times. "Well, Zeph, maybe your father has a point about us being unpredictable, but sometimes that's not such a bad thing." He began picking up the scattered cleaning supplies. "Do you have somewhere safe to go?" "My family's quarters are on level 9, Zeph said, "but Krex and his friends often wait for me there too." "Not today, they won't." Marcus stood and checked his watch. "My shift ends in an hour. I'll walk you home." "You would do that, but we barely know each other." Marcus looked down at the small, grateful alien. "Where I come from, that's what you do. You help people who need help." As they walked through the station's corridors together, Marcus couldn't help but notice how other aliens looked at them. Some stared in curiosity at the odd pairing of human and Zilani. Others whispered among themselves, probably gossiping about what they had heard. Word traveled fast on a space station. "Marcus," Zeph said as they reached his family's quarters, "why did you help me? Most beings just walk past when they see the Vorthak bothering someone." Marcus thought about the question. "On Earth, we have a saying, the only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing." I didn't want to be someone who did nothing. Zeph's large eyes grew even wider. "That is a very wise saying. Did a famous human philosopher create it?" "Something like that," Marcus smiled. "Now get inside and stay safe. I'll see you around the station." As Marcus walked back to the maintenance office to end his shift, he couldn't shake the feeling that today had changed something important. He had made a choice to get involved instead of walking away. But in a place like Nexus Station, choices like that had consequences. His supervisor, a grumpy Centaurian named Vex, was waiting for him at the office. "Chen," Vex said without looking up from his desk, "I've been getting some interesting reports about your shift today." "Oh?" "Something about a human maintenance worker starting fights with Vorthak teenagers." Vex finally looked up, his four eyes studying Marcus carefully. "Care to explain?" Marcus had been expecting this. "I broke up some bullies who were tormenting a kid, nothing more than that." "Nothing more?" Vex stood, his tall, thin frame towering over Marcus. "Do you have any idea who Krex's father is? Mordek Industries provides 15% of this station's operating budget. I don't care if his father owns half the galaxy. Nobody should get away with hurting kids. Vex rubbed his temples with two of his hands. Marcus, you're a good worker. You show up on time, you do your job, you don't cause trouble. But this, he gestured vaguely, this is trouble. So what are you saying? I'm saying that I've received a formal complaint. Krex claims you attacked him and his friends without provocation. Marcus felt anger building in his chest. That's a lie. Maybe, but it's his word against yours, and his family has considerably more influence than a human janitor. So that's it. They get to lie and I get punished. Vex sighed, a sound like air leaking from a damaged seal. I'm not punishing you yet, but I am putting you on probation. One more incident involving the Vorthak family and you're gone. Understood. Marcus nodded, though his jaw was clenched tight. Understood. As he walked back to his small quarters in the human residential block, Marcus couldn't help but think about Zeph. The small alien had probably made it home safely, but what about tomorrow? What about next week? Marcus had bought Zeph one day of peace, but at what cost? And more importantly, what would happen the next time Krex and his friends decided to have some fun with someone smaller and weaker? His quarters were barely large enough for a bed, a small desk, and a storage unit. Like most humans on the station, he lived simply. The pay was decent by Earth standards, but everything was expensive in space. He sat on his bed and activated his personal communicator. A message was waiting for him. When he opened it, he saw it was from an address he didn't recognize. Dear Marcus Chen, the message read. My name is Dr. Kelth Zephyros. I believe you met my son today. I would like to speak with you tomorrow if you are willing. Please meet me in Hydroponics Bay 7 at 800 station time. Marcus stared at the message for a long time. Zeph's father wanted to meet him. Given what Zeph had said about his family's opinion of humans, this probably wasn't going to be a pleasant conversation. But Marcus had made his choice when he stepped between Zeph and his tormentors. He would see it through to whatever end. He sent back a simple reply, I'll be there. Outside his small window, the stars wheeled slowly past as Nexus Station continued its endless rotation. Somewhere on level 7, a small alien boy was probably trying to explain to his parents why his tablet was broken. And somewhere else, 5 bullies were probably planning their revenge on the human who had dared to stand in their way. Marcus closed his eyes and tried to sleep, but his dreams were filled with the sound of Zeph's frightened whimpering and Krex's cruel laughter. He woke several times during the night, thinking he heard footsteps in the corridor outside his door. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. But tonight, at least, one small alien boy was safe in his bed instead of nursing fresh bruises in a medical bay. Sometimes, Marcus thought as he finally drifted off to sleep, that had to be enough. Marcus arrived at Hydroponics Bay 7 15 minutes early, a habit he had developed during his time in the military. The bay was one of the station's food production centers, filled with rows of growing plants under artificial sunlight. The air smelled of earth and growing things, a welcome change from the recycled atmosphere of most station corridors. Dr. Kelth Zephyros was already waiting for him. Marcus recognized the family resemblance immediately. Zeph's father had the same pale green skin and large, intelligent eyes, but where the boy was small and delicate, the adult Zelani carried himself with quiet dignity. He wore the dark blue robes of a senior researcher, and Marcus could see multiple academic insignia marking him as someone of considerable importance. Mr. Chen, Dr. Zephyros said, inclining his head politely, thank you for coming. Just Marcus is fine, sir. They stood in awkward silence for a moment, surrounded by the gentle hum of growing plants and water recycling systems. My son told me what happened yesterday, Dr. Zephyros said finally. He said you fought 5 Vorthak teenagers to protect him. Marcus shifted uncomfortably. I wouldn't call it fighting, more like convincing them to leave. Convincing them? A slight smile played at the corners of the Zelani's mouth. My son described it quite differently. He said you moved like water and struck like lightning. Your son reads too much poetry. Dr. Zephyros walked deeper into the hydroponics bay, gesturing for Marcus to follow. They stopped beside a section growing earth vegetables, tomatoes, lettuce, and something that might have been potatoes. Tell me about yourself, Marcus Chen. What brought a human to Nexus Station? Marcus had been asked this question many times, and he had developed a standard answer. Work, same as everyone else. That is what you tell everyone. I am asking what you will tell me. Something in the alien's voice made Marcus look at him more carefully. Dr. Zephyros was studying him with the kind of intense focus that suggested a brilliant mind at work. Why does it matter? Marcus asked. Because my son has not stopped talking about you since yesterday. Because in 37 years of living on various stations and worlds, he has never once described another being as brave. And because I am trying to understand why a human would risk his livelihood to help a Zilani child he had never met. Marcus picked up a tomato and examined it. The fruit looked exactly like the ones that grew on Earth. You want to know why? Because it was the right thing to do, that's all. The right thing according to whom? Vorthak culture considers what happened to Zeph a normal part of adolescent development. They believe physical challenges make younglings stronger. And what do you believe? Dr. Zephyros was quiet for a long moment. I believe that any culture that finds amusement in tormenting the weak is not as civilized as it pretends to be. Marcus set the tomato back down carefully. Then why did you warn Zeph to stay away from humans? We're not the ones hurting him. Because humans are dangerous in a different way. Your species has been in space for less than 50 years, yet you have already gained a reputation for unpredictability. Other species fear what they cannot understand. And what don't they understand about us? Dr. Zephyros touched one of the tomato plants, his long fingers gentle on the leaves. Your capacity for violence, for one thing. Most galactic species have had thousands of years to evolve past their aggressive instincts. Humans still carry theirs close to the surface. You make it sound like a bad thing. Not bad, different, dangerous. When other species disagree, they file formal complaints, hold committee meetings, engage in lengthy diplomatic negotiations. When humans disagree, he gestured vaguely. We what? You punch each other in the face. Marcus couldn't help but laugh. Fair enough, but sometimes that's exactly what's needed. They continued walking through the hydroponics bay. Marcus noticed that many of the plants were species he didn't recognize, probably from worlds he had never heard of. There is something else, Dr. Zephyros said. Something that concerns me more than your species' reputation for violence. Which is? Your reputation for loyalty. When humans form attachments, you do not let go easily. You have concepts like friendship and family that extend far beyond biological relationships. Most species find this excessive. Marcus stopped walking. You're worried that I'm going to get attached to your son. I am worried that you already are, and I am worried about what that might mean for both of you. Before Marcus could respond, his communicator chimed with an urgent message. He read it quickly and his face darkened. I have to go, he said. Zeph is in trouble. Dr. Zephyros grabbed his arm as he turned to leave. What kind of trouble? The message is from station security. They're holding him for questioning about an incident involving damaged property in the academic section. The two of them ran through the station corridors, Dr. Zephyros' robes flowing behind him like wings. Other beings stepped aside as they passed, clearly recognizing the urgency in their movement. They found Zeph in Security Office 3, sitting in a chair that was too large for him while a bored-looking Centaurian security officer asked him questions. I didn't break anything, Zeph was saying, his voice small and frightened. I was just trying to get to my advanced mathematics class. Then how do you explain the destroyed classroom equipment? The officer asked. 3 broken desks, a damaged display screen, and a hole in the wall. Dr. Zephyros pushed into the room. What is the meaning of this? Why is my son being questioned without a family representative present? The security officer looked up with all 4 eyes. Dr. Zephyros, we were just trying to understand how a small Zilani could cause this much damage to a classroom. The answer is simple, Marcus said from the doorway. He didn't. And who are you? The officer asked. Marcus Chen, station maintenance. I was called to clean up the mess in that classroom this morning. The officer's expression suggested he didn't think a janitor's opinion mattered much. Go on. The damage wasn't caused by anyone Zeph's size. The desk breaks are from impact by something much heavier. The screen was hit by someone at least 6 feet tall, and the hole in the wall, Marcus shook his head. That's from a Vorthak fist. I've seen that exact type of damage before. You're suggesting that someone else caused this damage and blamed it on the Zalani child. I'm not suggesting anything. I'm telling you what happened. Dr. Zephyros put a protective hand on his son's shoulder. Zeph, tell us exactly what happened this morning. The small alien looked up with frightened eyes. I went to Professor Korth's advanced mathematics class early, like always. I wanted to review my homework before the other students arrived. But when I got there, Krex and his friends were waiting. The same Vorthak group from yesterday? Marcus asked. Zeph nodded. Krex said they were there to teach me a lesson about disrespecting my betters. They said a human janitor couldn't protect me forever. Marcus felt his anger rising, but he forced himself to stay calm. What happened next? Dr. Zephyros asked gently. They started breaking things. Krex punched the wall and made a big hole. The others flipped over desks and threw things at the display screen. They said they would tell everyone I did it, and who would believe a weak little Zalani over strong Vorthak teenagers. Where were you when this was happening? The security officer asked. Hiding under Professor Korth's desk. I was too scared to move. The security officer made notes on his tablet. And when did you leave the classroom? When Krex and his friends were finished. Krex told me to stay there for exactly 10 minutes and then go report the accident I had caused. He said if I told anyone what really happened, they would make sure every day for the rest of my time on this station was worse than the last. Marcus exchanged a look with Dr. Zephyros. The alien father's face showed a mixture of anger and concern that Marcus recognized from his own childhood. There's your answer, Marcus told the security officer. The kid was set up. That's a serious accusation, the officer replied. Do you have any proof? Check the security footage. The cameras in that section were malfunctioning this morning. Very convenient timing. Marcus wasn't surprised. Krex's father had enough influence on the station to arrange for a lot of convenient coincidences. So what now? Dr. Zephyros asked. You're going to punish my son for being the victim of intimidation and vandalism. Without evidence to support his story, we have to go with what we can prove. Property was damaged, and he was the only one found at the scene. That's ridiculous, Marcus said. You know as well as I do that a Zalani child couldn't cause that kind of damage. Maybe not alone, but perhaps with help from someone who has demonstrated a pattern of violence toward Vorthak youth. Marcus realized where this was heading. You think I helped him destroy the classroom? I think it's convenient that you show up here with such detailed knowledge of the damage patterns, almost like you were there when it happened. Dr. Zephyros stood up, drawing himself to his full height. Officer, I demand to speak with your supervisor. This accusation is not only false, it's insulting to everyone's intelligence. My supervisor is off duty. You'll have to wait until tomorrow. Tomorrow? Zeph looked up with frightened eyes. What happens to me until then? Pending investigation, you're confined to your family's quarters, and Mr. Chen, the officer turned to Marcus. You're suspended from duty pending a review of your employment status. As they left the security office, Marcus could feel the walls closing in around them. Krex and his friends had played this perfectly. They had set up Zeph to take the blame for their vandalism, and they had maneuvered Marcus into a position where defending the boy made him look guilty too. This is not over, Dr. Zephyros said quietly as they walked toward the residential levels. No, Marcus agreed. It's not, but it's going to get worse before it gets better. When they reached the Zephyros family's quarters, Dr. Zephyros stopped at the door. Marcus, there is something I need to tell you, something that might change how you view this situation. What is it? Zeph is not just any Zalani child. He is what my people call blessed with the deep sight. His intelligence quotient measures higher than any being his age that has ever been tested. The Galactic Council has been watching his development closely. Marcus looked down at Zeph, who was studying the patterns in the corridor floor with intense concentration. You're saying he's some kind of genius. I am saying he represents the future of Zalani intellectual achievement, and there are those who would prefer that future not come to pass. You think this is bigger than just teenage bullying? Dr. Zephyros activated the door to his quarters. I think my son has become a symbol of Zalani potential in a galaxy where many prefer us to remain quiet and submissive. And I think you have become a symbol of human unpredictability in a galaxy where many prefer your species to know its place. Inside the quarters, Marcus could see that the Zephyros family lived simply but comfortably. The walls were lined with books in several languages, and complex mathematical equations were written on a large display screen. "What do we do now?" Marcus asked. Dr. Zephyros sat down beside his son and put an arm around him. "Now we wait, and we prepare, because tomorrow, I suspect, will be the day that determines whether justice means anything on this station." Zeph looked up at his father. "Papa, are they going to send Marcus away?" "Not if I can help it, young one." "Good," Zeph said quietly, "because I think we're going to need him." As Marcus walked back to his own quarters, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was missing something important. The whole situation felt too orchestrated, too convenient for Crex's side. Someone was pulling strings behind the scenes, and Marcus suspected that someone had a lot more influence than a teenage bully's wealthy father. But if they thought they could intimidate him into backing down, they had seriously underestimated what humans were willing to do for the people they cared about. Marcus had made his choice yesterday when he stepped between Zeph and his tormentors. Now he would see that choice through to whatever end awaited them all. Marcus didn't sleep well that night. Every sound in the corridor outside his quarters made him wonder if station security was coming for him. When morning finally came, he felt like he had been awake for days. His communicator chimed at exactly 600 hours. The message was brief: "Report to Administrator Vex's office immediately." Marcus dressed quickly and made his way through the station's morning bustle. Beings of dozens of species hurried past him on their way to work, most avoiding eye contact. Word had spread about yesterday's incident, and Marcus could feel the weight of their stares. He found Administrator Vex waiting in his office, but he wasn't alone. A tall, imposing figure stood with his back to the door, looking out at the stars through the office's large window. When the figure turned around, Marcus recognized him immediately from station news broadcasts. Administrator Thak Mordek, Crex's father, stood nearly 8 feet tall even for a Vorthak. His blue-gray skin was marked with the ritual scars of a successful businessman, and his eyes held the cold calculation of someone who was used to getting exactly what he wanted. "Mr. Chen," Administrator Mordek said in a voice like grinding stone, "please sit down." Marcus remained standing. "I'd rather not." "Suit yourself." Mordek moved to stand directly in front of Marcus, using his massive frame to loom over the human. "I understand you have become involved in some unfortunate incidents involving my son. I stopped your son and his friends from bullying a smaller kid. If you want to call that unfortunate, that says more about you than it does about me." Vex made a choking sound from behind his desk. "Marcus, please. Administrator Mordek is here to discuss a resolution to this situation." "What kind of resolution?" Marcus asked, never taking his eyes off Mordek. "A simple one," Mordek replied. "You resign your position immediately and take the next transport back to Earth. In exchange, all charges against you are dropped, and you receive a generous severance package." "And what about Zeph?" "The Zelani child is not your concern. Appropriate measures will be taken to ensure he learns proper behavior and respect for his betters." Marcus felt something cold settle in his stomach. Appropriate measures. Disciplinary action. Perhaps a transfer to a more suitable educational environment, one where he can learn to interact appropriately with other species. Marcus understood what Mordek was really saying. They would send Zeph away from his family to some kind of reform school where his spirit would be broken and his genius dimmed to something more acceptable to the galactic status quo. "No," Marcus said simply. Mordek's eyes narrowed. "I beg your pardon." "I said no. I'm not leaving, and you're not sending that boy anywhere." "Mr. Chen," Vex interjected desperately, "please reconsider. Administrator Mordek is being very generous with his offer." "I don't care if he's offering me my own planet. The answer is still no." Mordek stepped closer, close enough that Marcus could smell the alien's metallic breath. "Do you have any idea who you are dealing with, human? I control shipping contracts worth hundreds of billions of credits. I employ more beings than some star systems have in their entire populations. I can have you blacklisted from every station, every world, every space-based facility in the galaxy." "Maybe you can," Marcus agreed. but you'll still be the father who raised a son that finds entertainment in hurting children smaller than himself. For a moment, Marcus thought Mordek might actually hit him. The alien's hands clenched into fists, and the scars on his face flushed a deeper blue. "You are making a very dangerous mistake," Mordek said quietly. "I will give you one more chance to accept my generous offer. After that, the consequences will be entirely on your own head." "I've made my choice. Have a good day." Marcus turned and walked toward the door. As his hand touched the control panel, Mordek spoke again. "By the way, Mr. Chen, I thought you should know that Dr. Zephyros has been relieved of his research position, effective immediately. Something about security concerns regarding his son's recent behavior problems." Marcus's hand froze on the door control. "You can't do that. Dr. Zephyros hasn't done anything wrong." "I can do whatever I choose. The Zalani family's residence permit is tied to his employment status. Without a job, they have exactly 72 hours to vacate the station." The trap was complete. Marcus could see it now with perfect clarity. Mordek hadn't just been targeting Zeph or even Marcus himself. This had been about removing the entire Zephyros family from Nexus Station. "Why?" Marcus asked, turning back around. "What threat could one family possibly pose to someone with your power?" Mordek smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. "Dr. Zephyros has been researching quantum communication theory. His work could revolutionize interstellar communication within the next decade. That would be very bad for companies like mine that profit from the current slow, expensive methods. So you're destroying his career to protect your business interests." "I am protecting the economic stability of the entire galactic community. Revolutionary change is dangerous and unpredictable. The galaxy functions best when everyone knows their proper place." Marcus stared at the massive alien. "And what's our proper place? Humans, I mean. Maintenance staff, manual laborers, soldiers, perhaps, when your aggressive instincts can be properly channeled. You are useful in your own way, but you must learn not to overstep your boundaries." "I see," Marcus nodded slowly. "Well, since you've made your position so clear, let me make mine equally clear. You can take your offer, your threats, and your proper places, and shove them all straight up your ass." Vex made a strangled sound. Mordek's face went completely rigid. "You have just made the worst mistake of your very short career, human." "Maybe, but at least I can look at myself in the mirror." Marcus left the office before anyone could respond. As the door closed behind him, he could hear Mordek's voice rising in anger, though he couldn't make out the specific words. His communicator chimed almost immediately. The message was from Dr. Zephyros. "Can you meet us in Hydroponics Bay 7? Urgent." Marcus found the Zephyros family waiting for him in the same section where he had first talked with the doctor. But this time, they weren't alone. Nearly 24 beings of various species stood with them, all wearing the insignia of station researchers, technicians, and support staff. "Marcus," Dr. Zephyros said as he approached, "I take it your meeting with Mordek did not go well." "That would be an understatement. I'm guessing yours didn't either." "I am officially terminated, and my family has been ordered to leave the station within 3 days." Zeph stood close to his father, looking smaller and more fragile than ever. But his large eyes held a determined light that Marcus hadn't seen before. "However," Dr. Zephyros continued, "it seems that Administrator Mordek has underestimated how many beings on this station are tired of his heavy-handed tactics." An elderly Centaurian stepped forward. Marcus recognized her as Dr. Velkorth, the station's chief medical officer. "Mr. Chen," she said in a voice cracked with age, "we have been watching the situation develop with great interest. What you did yesterday, standing up to the Vorthak bullies, has inspired many of us who have remained silent for too long." "I don't understand." A Terran engineer named Rodriguez spoke up. "Marcus, Mordek has been pulling this kind of crap for years. He gets rid of anyone who threatens his business interests or doesn't show him proper respect. We've all just kept our heads down and hoped it wouldn't happen to us. But watching you defend young Zeph made us realize something," Dr. Korth continued. "If we don't stand together, we'll all fall separately." Dr. Zephyros moved to stand beside Marcus. "They are proposing something unprecedented, a formal challenge to Mordek's authority based on documented evidence of his abuse of power." "What kind of evidence?" A Zalani technician activated a portable display. Financial records showing how Mordak has been manipulating station contracts to favor his own companies. Communications proving he has been suppressing research that threatens his business interests. Testimony from dozens of beings who have been intimidated, threatened, or blacklisted for crossing him. Marcus stared at the data scrolling across the display. How long have you been gathering this? Years, Dr. Korth admitted, but we never had the courage to act on it. Mordak seemed too powerful, too well-connected. We told ourselves that the risk was too great. What changed? The elderly Centaurian smiled. Yesterday, a human janitor looked at 5 Vorthak bullies and decided that doing the right thing was more important than avoiding risk. It made the rest of us ashamed of our own cowardice. Zeph stepped forward and looked up at Marcus with his large, grateful eyes. They're calling it the Chen effect, he said quietly. When one person's courage gives others permission to be brave too. Marcus felt overwhelmed. I didn't mean to start anything, I just wanted to help a kid in trouble. That's exactly why it worked, Rodriguez said. You didn't do it for glory or recognition, you did it because it was right. Dr. Zephyros placed a hand on Marcus's shoulder. The question now is whether you are willing to see this through to the end. What we're proposing will make Mordak very angry, and he will almost certainly try to retaliate. Marcus looked around at the gathered beings. They represented a dozen different species, various departments, and different levels of station hierarchy. But they all shared one thing, the look of people who had decided they were tired of being afraid. What exactly are you proposing? Dr. Korth activated another display. A formal petition to the Galactic Council demanding an investigation into Administrator Mordak's conduct and business practices. If enough station personnel sign it, and if the evidence is compelling enough, the Council will have to take action. How many signatures do you need? At least 40% of the station's non-Vorthak population. We have 37% already. Marcus was amazed. You gathered all that support in one day. Word travels fast on a space station, Rodriguez grinned. Especially when it's about someone finally standing up to the biggest bully on board. Zeph tugged on Marcus's sleeve. There's something else. If we can prove that Mordak has been suppressing beneficial research for personal profit, the Council might create new protections for scientists and inventors. Protections like what? Dr. Zephyros smiled. Like guaranteeing that researchers cannot be dismissed or relocated without peer review. It would prevent people like Mordak from destroying careers simply because they don't like the potential implications of someone's work. Marcus understood what they were really offering him. This wasn't just about saving one family or stopping one bully. This was about changing the system that allowed bullies like Mordak to thrive. What do you need me to do? Sign the petition, Dr. Korth said, and be prepared to testify about what you witnessed regarding Krex's behavior and Mordak's threats. Marcus took the offered stylus without hesitation. Where do I sign? As he added his name to the growing list, he noticed something interesting. Humans made up less than 3% of the station's population, but nearly every human name was already on the petition. Why are so many of my people involved in this? He asked. Rodriguez laughed. Marcus, you're not the only human on this station who's gotten tired of being told to know your place. We've been waiting for an excuse to push back. A communications technician hurried over to their group. Dr. Korth, we're receiving a priority transmission from the Galactic Council. They're requesting immediate communication with Dr. Zephyros. Dr. Zephyros looked puzzled. With me, but I'm no longer employed by the station. The message specifically mentions your quantum communication research. Apparently, someone has forwarded your preliminary findings to the Council's Technology Assessment Board. Marcus felt a spark of hope. What does that mean? It means, Dr. Zephyros said slowly, that the Council has learned about my work before Mordak could bury it completely. If they're interested in the research, they might also be interested in knowing why it was being suppressed. The next few hours passed in a blur of activity. Dr. Zephyros spoke with the Galactic Council while the petition continued to gather signatures. Marcus found himself surrounded by beings thanking him for his courage, asking about Earth, and sharing their own stories of intimidation at Mordak's hands. As the station's day cycle moved toward evening, Marcus realized that something fundamental had changed. For the first time since arriving at Nexus Station, He felt like he belonged to something larger than himself. His communicator chimed with an urgent message. It was from station security. "Mr. Chen, please report to Administrator Vex's office immediately." When Marcus arrived, he found Vex looking exhausted and stressed. But this time, Mordek was nowhere to be seen. "Marcus," Vex said wearily, "I have some news. Administrator Mordek has withdrawn his complaint against you. You are no longer suspended from duty." Marcus was suspicious. Just like that, what's the catch? "The Galactic Council has announced a formal investigation into certain business practices on Nexus Station. Administrator Mordek feels it would be inappropriate to pursue personal vendettas while that investigation is ongoing. And Dr. Zephyros has been offered a full research position with council backing. His dismissal has been reversed, and his family's residence permit has been extended indefinitely." Marcus felt a wave of relief, but he knew this wasn't over. What about Krex and his friends? They will be transferred to a disciplinary academy on Vorthak Prime. Their parents agreed that a change of environment might help them develop better character. It wasn't perfect justice, but it was a start. More importantly, it sent a message that bullying behavior had consequences, even for the children of the powerful. As Marcus walked back toward his quarters, he found Zeph waiting for him in the corridor. "Marcus," the small alien called out, "I wanted to thank you." "For what?" "For showing me what courage looks like. My father says that because of what you started, things are going to change on this station. Not just for my family, but for everyone who's been afraid to speak up." Marcus knelt down so he could look Zeph in the eyes. "You know what I learned from all this?" "What?" "Courage isn't about not being afraid. It's about deciding that some things are more important than being afraid." Zeph smiled, the first genuine smile Marcus had seen from him. "I want to be brave like you when I grow up." "You already are brave, kid. You survived everything they threw at you and never gave up. That's the hardest kind of courage there is." As they walked together toward the residential levels, Marcus thought about how much had changed in just 2 days. He had started as an invisible janitor who just wanted to do his job and stay out of trouble. But sometimes, trouble found you whether you wanted it or not. And sometimes, the most important thing you could do was stand up anyway. The stars wheeled slowly past the observation windows as Nexus Station continued its endless rotation. Somewhere in those stars, other beings faced their own bullies, their own choices between safety and doing what was right. Marcus hoped that word of what had happened here would spread, that other people would find their own courage when they needed it most. Because in the end, that's what humanity brought to the galaxy, not just strength or unpredictability, but the simple, stubborn refusal to let the innocent suffer when something could be done about it. It wasn't much, perhaps, but sometimes it was enough to change everything. Dr. Zephyros appeared around the corner, walking quickly toward them. When he saw Marcus and Zeph together, his face broke into a wide smile. "Perfect timing," he said. "I was hopping to find you both. The council has just approved funding for my research project, and they've requested that I assemble a multicultural team to assist with the work." "Congratulations," Marcus said. "That's amazing news." "Indeed, and I was wondering if you might be interested in a career change. The project needs a security coordinator, someone to ensure the team's safety and handle any administrative challenges that might arise." Marcus stared at him. "You're offering me a job." "I am offering you a chance to be part of something that could revolutionize communication across the galaxy. The work would be challenging, the hours long, and the pay considerably better than maintenance work." "But I'm just a janitor." Dr. Zephyros put a hand on Marcus's shoulder. "No, my friend, you are someone who does the right thing regardless of the consequences. That is exactly the kind of person this project needs." Zeph looked up at Marcus with hopeful eyes. "Please say yes. I want to learn more about human courage." Marcus looked from father to son, thinking about all the paths his life could take from this moment. He could go back to his simple existence, mopping floors and emptying trash, keeping his head down and avoiding trouble. Or he could step forward into something bigger, something that mattered, something that might help build a better future for small alien boys and stubborn human janitors alike. "When do I start?" he asked. As they walked together toward their new future, Marcus couldn't help but smile. 2 days ago, he had been invisible. Now he was part of something that might change the galaxy. All because he had refused to walk past a child in need. Sometimes the smallest decisions had the biggest consequences, and sometimes doing the right thing was its own reward.